Hey guys, Kirk here, and thank you for joining me on a new video on the channel. In this video we're going to be rebuilding our slope master layer, as it's going to contribute to a couple of layers for our slopes. Over the past few videos in the BWV2 series, we've completely rebuilt our material layer, or our master material layer. In the previous video we went to debug it, and there was a few bits and bobs that weren't right, but that was due to not having the ORD texture. I did point out a couple of times in text on the video that there's an error and blah 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 blah, but the material layers are fine. At the end of that video I did state that I would build up them individual layers, the dirt layers and grass layers, like you can see at the bottom here. Rebuild them up and apply some textures into them, and that it would all be ready for when you guys see the next video. And as you can see here, the material layers have been built up. They do look quite well. Believe it or not, that's 2 layers in that dirt patch, and I think them two are combining very well, along with the grass layer that you're seeing here. But like I say, this is for the slope. At the moment my slope has a grass texture on it. That's what you're seeing there. And we don't want that grass texture. We want 2 slope layers essentially. Press 1, it'll take me back to my bookmark. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing in this video, rebuilding our slope master layer. But not to worry, it shouldn't take too long really, as we are just simply going to duplicate our master layer, which is here. If we open this up, you'll see here, let's make a bit more space here, I don't know why it's like this. You'll see here that our master layer is all set up. We're essentially going to be copying that and adding some logic to it, using world aligned textures and world aligned normals. Them functions are readily available in the engine content for Unreal Engine, so it shouldn't really take that long really to build up the slope layer. So yeah, we are going to get on with that right away, I think. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open my master logic, or my master layer logic if you like, and this is essentially what we was working on over the past few videos, where we built up and got the albedo, ORD and normal textures. So yeah, I want to start rebuilding this up essentially. What I'm going to do is just simply copy all this, left control and C. In fact, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm just going to get the master layer here, left control and C, and copy that. And then go to my layers, go to slope layers, and you'll see I've got some functions in here. These are the triplanar projected functions that we created earlier in the series. Sorry. We're not going to be utilising them, but I do want to keep them. These triplanar projections that I tried using on our landscape are essentially for assets like rocks and props that you may use in your world. So we've got to keep them for when we start implementing assets into this world. So I could right click, create a new folder, call this asset underscore try plan. We just do that and grab these 4. You may not have these in your folders. If you've been following along in the series, most likely will do. So just create a new folder and drop them in there. Click move in there. Very simple. And then we're just going to click here, left control and C, and copy our master layer. I'm going to open our master layer. We're going to grab this, left control and C, make a copy of that, and then left control and V into there. That's not working though. What we will do is go to the layers, master layer, get the logic, left control and C, go to layers, back to my slope. Oh, I've copied that in the wrong one, to be honest. So we'll go to slope master, left control and V, and essentially I'm just going to rename this. At the minute it's MF master logic, if you like, master layer logic. I could call this We'll get rid of the MF, we don't need that. Master slope underscore layer logic. So that should now say master slope layer logic, which is fine. We'll grab this, left control and X, and then we'll go back to the master layer, left control and V. You should copy that in there, and should have taken it from there, but it hasn't. So we'll just go in there and delete it. We'll go back to our slope master folder. There, master slope layer logic, and this could be that's a logic as well. Hang on a minute, what is going on? That's logic, and that is logic. Right, okay. So we'll delete that one. We'll go back to layers, master, and we'll get the master layer, left control and C. Go to layers, slope layer. We're getting there in the end, aren't we? And we'll just rename this. So we can get rid of the MF. I'm trying to get rid of them. Master slope underscore layer. Then we'll open our master slope layer. And we'll change this for our we'll go master. Let's look for master slope logic, and we'll just change that there. And now this master slope layer is using the master slope layer logic function inside of it. Everything's already plugged in, which is pretty good. You could simply do that, but like I say, click on the function, click on the drop down, and just type in the actual function you want. Or you could click on it, open your content bar, draw, get your logic, and just drag it over the top of it if you want to. So we'll save that. We don't need that one right now. We just need the logic. Right, okay, so we're going to get started. The reason I've got my content draw set up like this, I can open the functions folder, and this is where all my functions for the slope layer are going to go. We're not going to be utilizing this particular function in the slope layer, although I'm going to open it. It's not opening. Maybe it is opening, but behind the scenes. Yep, thought so. Okay, so we're going to be utilizing some of this in our slope layer, but what I need to do is individualize the functions, i.e. rename them to have slope on it. The downside to doing what we're going to be doing for the slope layer is we're not going to be able to use texture breakup. It's impossible to do it. Not impossible, but it would take too long to figure out how it's going to work. But we do need a texture set blending. We're going to find that, and then we're going to take a copy of that. Left control and C. Go to our slope master, into the functions, and left control and V. And then we'll highlight it, F2, texture set blending, underscore slope. And we've got our own individualized one. Texture breakup we don't need to worry about. Mask, we don't need to rename that because we're not making any changes in there. We're making changes in the texture set blending. We are probably going to use a distant mask function, but not, yeah. So we'll make a copy of the distant mask function. To find this particular function, you can just click this little search icon here, and it'll find that. So left control and C. Go to our slope layer functions, and left control and V. We're going to create some more functions here, but we'll change it up. We'll work our way out. So we can get rid of that. Go into the functions folder, texture set blending, distant mask. I'm going to change the name of this to like so, and this is going to be our main function. A lot of this is going to sit inside of our main slope here, which is going to work out shortly. Okay, so I do know texture breakup's not going to work, so I can remove that. We can remove them inputs. Yeah, I'll remove that boolean, which is for this one here. Can remove that. So we can keep the rest as is. Right, okay, so texture set blending. I'm going to use the slope version here. Just drag that in there. We've basically set it up as much as we can. Okay, so what I want to do is open this up. At the moment, I tell you what, we'll come back to this because it'll make sense a bit more once we've finished building this up. The reason being is if I come in here, we're going to be using, these are the two functions we're going to be using for our slope layer. World aligned textures is just so much better to use on a world, on a landscape than building your own triplanar logic up. But yeah, we're going to be using these, but we need to make some changes in them first before we can use them. So what I am going to do is find them with this little icon here again, like so. And then we are, where is it? It needs to be highlighted. There it is. Left control and C. We'll go back into our slope functions and left control and V. What I do need to do, because we're going to make a couple of changes in this particular function, I don't want it to affect the world align texture function that is already implemented into the engine. So I'm going to rename it. So I've got world align texture underscore Kirk edit. I'm just going to put that. You can put whatever you want, just so if the name is different, it'll differentiate itself from this particular function. So we can do that, and we'll get the normal as well and do the same for the normal. Left control and C, back to my functions folder, which is here, and left control and V. Same again, we're going to rename it to underscore Kirk edit, and now we've got our two little functions ready. We can delete them too. So essentially, world aligned textures, both the texture and the normal versions, are just basically triplanar. It's a cheap version of doing triplanar projection, but it works and it looks good, so why not use it? But we're going to implement that in our slope build-up, which is here. Okay, so what I want to do is throw our world aligned texture in here, like so. We're going to utilize this. We can get this input, which is here, and apply our input into there. That's simple. There we go. Like so. Let me have a think actually. Let me have a think. Do we want to do it in this? We will want to. The good thing about this is we won't need that. Yeah, we won't need that, but we're going to be drawing off the X, Y, and Z, which is a vector 3. So doing this way could be an issue for there. In there. For here, yeah, we can use them. So we'll drag the inputs from our distant UVs, and we're just going to plonk them into that texture size there. We'll move this up. As we are using distant UVs, we've got a far, mid, and a near. We will need 3 of these, so I'll duplicate these actually 3 times. What I do need to do, these inputs for our UVs are scalar parameters. The change in here, what I have to make is, at the moment, this is expecting a vector 3 for our texture size. We just need to change that to a scalar parameter. We don't get no errors. Sometimes you may have to apply a component mask here. If you're using a vector 2 on your UVs, i.e. still have the landscape cards, layer cards, that'll display as a vector 2. If you're using a vector 2 in this world aligned texture, You could simply reduce with a component mask and add that before the absolute value node there. If you do that, because this is a vector, but you'll have a vector 2 coming in here. So if I set this to a vector 2 and plug that in there, we should get an error like so, saying you can't go to a vector 3 from a vector 2. So adding a component mask here will get rid of that error if you're using a vector 2. We don't need to worry about that because we're using a scalar parameter, which is, okay. We can just simply apply that. But the good thing about this world aligned texture is we're using a scalar parameter to change our UV scale, and it converts it into a vector 3, which is here. And then we are going to be using this output, which is a vector 3 as well. So that would mean, I'll just have to save that, which is this X, Y and Z texture. If I plug these into here, like so, we should really be getting an error, but you may not get the error because inside here is a vector 2. Because we're using texture samples in this particular function, what we've built up over the past few videos, this has to be a vector 2 in them UVs, but we don't really need the texture sample, but we'll get round to that shortly, and you'll see why all this marries up pretty well. But as it stands there, we've got our UVs set up for our world aligned texture, like so. Let's just straighten them up a little bit, move them up one, Shift and A to line them up, and we could just use that, utilize that. Like here, we won't need the texture sample because our textures are being projected in here, and for our distant UVs in the material layer, we needed this texture sample in there, but we don't anymore, so we won't need a texture input. It'll all make sense shortly, guys. What shall we do here? I think we need to build our mask up for our world space normals. Yeah. So let's build up our mask. Yeah, we need world space normals for this so it can calculate the normals of our landscape. So for that, I'm going to need a vertex normal in world space, and then off there we're going to need a vector 3, and we want to project on all axes, so we're going to put a 1 in each axis like so, and we'll hit M on the keyboard and get a multiply. I'm just going to multiply them two together like so, and this should, yep, there you go. It's just setting up our mask for our projection on all axes there, which is fine. Then we're going to need to normalize it. I'm going to drag off there, RER, get a reroute declaration node, and this could be our normal mask. Like so. We can actually move this out of the way somewhere, and we'll put a comment box. And we just need to plug our mask in. So we'll get our reroute declaration node. We'll plug that into our world space normal. Okay. Is that set up how I want it? I think we need to make a change in here now. But before we do that, we shall set up our order. So at the top, I'm going to want our texture input. I'll just set that to a 0. And then one separation can be, this can be 1. And this will separate our texture input from our UVs input. So this can be 2, 3, 4, and then our distant mask inputs. So this can be at 5. And we can go 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so I think this is set up to how I want it. Let's go a normal mask up here. Like so. We'll hit apply and we save all that. What I want to do now is just quickly make some changes in our texture set blending slope function. Essentially from here we're coming in with scalar parameters where we can change each UVs of our distant mask and do, like I stated before, world align texture function, which is a Kirk edit, is simply outputting a vector 3. We need that vector 3 because I've stated I've got other videos on triplanar projection, like the previous one that we used in this particular material and one that we used with the assets from a earlier video on the channel. All world aligned textures are projected in 3 axes, which is X, Y and Z. You can project downwards if you want, or just on the X and Y, completely up to you. But I just prefer to use the vector 3 as it's most commonly used. But for that, these noodles that are going in here are going to need to be a vector 3. Whereas at the moment they're a vector 2. They have to be a vector 2 because we're using a texture sample. If I change that to a vector 3, I'll get an error and it won't work. You can't cast from a larger float 3 to a smaller float 2. So we can keep that as a vector 3. All we have to do is to delete our texture samples, like so. We don't need the texture inputs anymore because our textures are being provided into our triplanar build-up. So all we need here is to put these in the false, like so. We can do that, and this will still work the same. These need to be changed to a vector 3. So what we're going to do is just line these up a little bit. So our set priorities on our inputs are fine. We can just save that. That's finished now. As you can see, it's disaligned them because it's an arsehole. Okay, so now we're fine there. So we can move them straight. No, it's got that weird, we're not straightening up bug. Pardon me. So essentially, our triplanar slope build up is set up. Can click save on that. This could be for our textures. So if I go here, I wonder if that'll work. Let's just drag the build up in. This is our slope build up. If I drag that in, you'll see we're getting some more. Let's have a look here. Now, could I essentially... I'll tell you what, I'll just re-plug them all in. I don't know actually. Let's click on that. We'll find this one, which is there. Then we'll click on this one and just apply that in there. It'll uncheck some of them, but essentially we're just applying it in there. Some of these are not going to be used like them. Our texture breakup, we can delete them. Our distant masks are going to be used. So, and our debug is going to be used. Oh, wait there. No, that's fine. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, if I open this up, our debug is for the tiling. Right, okay, so UV tiling, distant tiling. I was just looking at this because this is our layer, debug layer. But that should be fine. We may get some issues here with this build on here. What I can do is essentially just delete all that. Like so. Oh no. Left control and need to just delete these. Like so. Right, and then all we have to do is copy these. Left control and C, make a copy, and plonk that right here. That'll do fine. I just want to see if we get this error. Yeah, we do. So function triplan slope build up, missing function input, texture input. That's fine. Let's plug that in there, and it's gone away. I was kind of expecting. Oh no, because that'd be right now. Yeah, I was expecting to get an error because this is a vector 3. But we're not getting that error because it outputs a vector 3. Right, understandable. Right, so that is simple. We're set up there. We're done. For our material UVs, our texture breakup, we don't need them inputs anymore. We can simply move this down and then move this down. I have tried this a couple of days ago. I have tried this and I could not get the texture breakup to work. I really couldn't. No matter how I tried changing the vectors and all this good stuff, and I really just couldn't get it to work. We'll just quickly save that. So I just thought there's no real point or worry about having texture breakup on our slopes, as our players are not going to be running up and down our cliff walls. So with this kind of setup, we've had to, get rid of the texture breakup, but we'll get on. Life must go on. Next is the normal. The normal is kind of built the same. We just need to find this in here. So we've got our triplan build up. We'll just duplicate this, left control and D, and we need to just keep the name different. So do build up and then underscore normal. In principle, it's the same setup. We just have to change our world align texture to the normal one. With the normal, because it is a normal, you don't need the normal mask as well, which is a bonus for logic reasons. So here, we'll highlight them all, actually. Come to the content drawer, click on here, and then just apply them in there. There you go. Dead simple. You can get rid of this normal mask. We don't need that normal mask on our normals, so we can actually delete the mask and say performance. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Got our texture input there. We could actually change that to indicate more what it's doing to normal. Normal texture input. So hit apply and come out of there. So our normal texture build up. This is just our normal. We can actually get rid of that as well. Oh, save. Yeah, we'll just hit save. Make sure it's fine. We'll jump in here and we'll drag our normal build up into there, like so. We're getting an error. There's no normal texture input. For this, we still need the normal there texture in that. We'll apply that in there. Get rid of these. And let's just tidy this up a little bit. We could do that. What we'll do Shift and A. And then Shift and D. There you go. All set up. Preview connection for function input material. Import ORD texture. Missing preview connection for function input. Just need to connect that into there. There you go. Right, okay. So guys, that's pretty much it. I hope, well, I say pretty much it might not work yet, but we'll see. You can actually delete that. Upon testing off camera with this functionality that I set up in the previous video, I'm not entirely sure that it's going to be feasible. The reason being is when we open our, let's just open our landscape material instance. When we open the material instance and we can show textures here, dirty, show textures, and when you show textures at the bottom of the category, it's just going to open up the 3 textures. That's exactly what this is doing, but obviously this is the slope function, but it's still the same. And essentially with this, you could come in here, so you change the textures in your world, in your material instance, and then you think, I'm going to hide them again, I don't need to see them anymore. Once you hide them textures like that, it's going to fall back to these texture objects as their default. So that for me is kind of nonsensical, because you're going to change your textures in the material instance here and then think, I'm going to hide it again because I don't really want to look at them texture inputs. But once you turn that off, you're essentially saying we're not going to use these parameters anymore. We're going to fall back to our texture objects. So I'm thinking, is it worth it? I'm noticing something here, guys. My ORD texture is missing. This one here. It's definitely there. But it's missing. It's definitely inputted. But we've got our albedo and normal. Alright, okay. If I apply that now, there you go. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, essentially, you just created a new input. It's the same kind of input. I just created a new one. Yeah, so that was a little bit strange. Not sure what was going on there, guys. But we could just simply plug that into there. So yeah, going back to what I was saying, I'm not sure whether I'm gonna use this switch or not. I may change this for the rest of the material layers, but for the slope, I'm going to say no. We can just simply plug in our textures into here, like so. We can delete our texture objects. Probably saves on maybe half an instruction. So Shift and D, move these down a bit. We got material layers. Let's move that down. Okay, so prior to that, sorry about that thing going on there. It's a bit weird. That was very strange. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. But we'll quickly save that. What I want to do now is test this out. Prior to the video, of course, I've downloaded some Megascan surfaces of rock cliff. Let's just highlight them. Let's have a look. Yep, we'll try this in our master slope layer. So what we're going to do, we're going to click on the albedo texture. Click on our albedo texture input parameter. Click there. It's our rock texture. As you can see, the preview looks great. Go on our ORD texture. Implement that in there. It'll add a few more details to our albedo. But obviously, the main one is our normals, as that reflects light. Apply that in there. There you go, it looks really nice that now. What K are these textures? Oh, 4K. Oh, nice. So yeah, let's go and try this out. Well, let me just check these first. I want to check all the names. In fact, it all just looks fine. We'll go along with it. Let's hit save. What I want to do now is open my master material. Open it up, master material. What we've got here is set up from our last video. Not sure why there's a texture object there. Oh, it's macro variation. Yeah, I remember now. I was thinking about plugging it in and all that good stuff. What I am going to do is just test this out real quick. We'll go to our layers, slope master, master slope layer. We could just simply drag this in here. I'm just going to wire this up into there while we test it. We'll hit save, opens here, then go ahead, click on our map. Right, as you can see, our texture is on the scene. My mouse is a little bit weird at the moment. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, that's fine now. What we're going to do is go over to the cliff walls. Yeah, obviously the UVs are not completely accurate as yet. I may set up something that can rotate this texture, but you can see this little orange patch here. That's making the texture repetition quite visible. Go over here. Don't worry about the dark patches on there. If I go away, the texture is tiny. I think because we've inverted them, it goes small at a distance. The dark patches that you're seeing is our macro variation. So if I go to the shader, enable, and we'll disable macro variation. And now it should just be texture. The normals are fine. The normals are kicking in fine. I've not tested the detailed normals yet. But yeah, that projection looks pretty stable. Looks pretty good actually. So I'm happy with that. I'm not fully testing it to its full capabilities until we apply it to the rest of our material layers, which we can actually do now. So, as you can see, we need our slope layer going into slope layer A, and that is our height there. As you can see, that smudgy green stuff is our layer B material, which is our grass layer. So don't take that into account. We need to find somewhere decent to test this out. That's going to be our... Let's have a look at this stage here. This looks fine. You get a good view. Let's slow that down a bit. There you go. Okay, so we'll open our material insert. Well, we've already got it open. Let's give this a quick test. It should say layer name, which is here. Which is fine. We've got our textures there set up. I mean, it doesn't take up that much space compared to our materials. But this is our slope here, so we don't need to worry about that. Click on debug layer. Let's debug. Should show up as black or white maybe. So that debug layer is working fine. We'll test the default normals at the end. We'll just enable these particular layer options here. So close up, let's get a bit closer to our... In fact, before we do that, we'll check our distance. Right, okay. Okay, yeah, I remember changing that to a grassland biome. And essentially, it should be set up correctly. Let's have a look at here. 15,000, 36,000, 2. And we'll change that to a 3 for the far. Their values are the blending. That's what the transition between each band is. I hit save. I don't need... just bear with me, let that recompile. Let's have a quick look. As you can see here, if I go to the grassland biome controls, I've got the grassland distant tiling controls already set up in there. I don't know why it's set up like that. So near, I'm going to keep at 15,000. That can be 35,000. That's a 2 and a 3, that's fine. The UVs are going to work. What I can do is just set these to a 0.2, 0.2. And what we'll see there is the transition between each UVs changing live. But it's not working, which is weird. Let's see what happens when we change the UVs here. So near, let's go to a 1, 2, 3, 50, 100, 1000. Yeah, so 1200. 1200 is quite large. It's obviously not the final result texture wise that I want to use for our slopes. I'm just wondering why distant UVs are not working. We've put that to a 2. This can be a 0.5. Like so. Well, that should be changing. Even on the grassy side it should change, but it's not. So what I can do is go to the controls, macro variation. We'll enable that again. Enable distant logic. If I just open that up, now as you can see, it's quite a distance away. That's why I'm not seeing the change, because that is quite the distance. So the near, if we get the near, we'll just drop that down a bit. You can see that band working its way over to us. So our near is a lot closer, our mid is fine, and our far is fine. We could send the far out, really. So if we change that to around 10,000, that should be fine. And if we increase this like 1, 2, 50, you can see there 1, 2. That sky blue is a mixture between blue and green. Everyone should know that. 1.5, 1.3. That blend is quite good. For our far, where you can see the green to the red, we can increase that transition to 1. Um, 1.2. There you go. You get that orangey colour, and that's just that blend in there. We can disable our distant logic. Enable distant logic. That's kind of the wrong word. That is kind of the wrong word. Let me just... No, we're in a video. Okay, come on. So now we're here. We can kind of see the transition. So we'll go to our UVs again. I think it's because it's so small. So if I set this to 5,000, it's going to be 3,500. We may see in the distance that the UVs, we might go 7,500. You can definitely see them changing. We'll leave it at 5,000. They definitely work. The UVs are definitely working. I'm just not seeing the change. There you go. Seeing it then. Like I said, we'll numb that down a bit. 0.2, 0.2. Now we should see this change. I can see it changing. Okay, I can see it changing. If you watch this little bit of cliff wall here, just keep your eyes focused on there. We'll pull it back slowly. There you go. You see that change there happening? So the distant UVs are fine. Let's go to a 4,500. There you go. That's fine. Okay, so the UVs work after all that. Sorry about that, guys. So the UVs work. Let's close that up. Colour and brightness 0. Yeah. 0.15 will be a good number there, as it's a cliff wall. But yeah, we need to change the contrast. Common options, perfect. So 0. There you go. 1. 1.3. Let's make it a little bit darker. 1.2. Should be fine. Saturation 0 means no colour. 1 is with colour. 2, obviously, you know, turning into lava. So 1.2, what's about right there. Still defines actually. 1.1. That orange is too much, but that, let's slow that down. That looks like looks quite saturated, but it'll be fine. So normals 5, 50. Clearly see them normals there. 20, 10, 5.5. This is very large for normals, normal values. May contemplate putting a power node in there, and essentially a power node just multiplies by 2. So if you did a multiplication of 4, you would need 2 for a power node. But yeah, that looks like a good cliff wall. XX is not used. Back to the colour and brightness, could easily increase this, so 0.2, 0.3, 0.5, 1. There you go. 0.35. That looks nice to me. Obviously, it needs more detail editing in. Roughness 0, 0, 0. The roughness will not actually work for any layer because, oh, that went a bit slow. On the specular side, I've set it to 0. If I set this to a 0.5, hit save, this will change for every material layer, so it's going to recompile. It's like that. Finish compiling them material layers. There you go. Seems to finish. So there, you can see the reflection now because that's such reflection of the blue plane, which is our fake water. If I go to a 1 0.5, 1, there you go, completely gone. So our roughness now will take an effect, but that is a little bit too much, so I may go to a 0.35 for our specular highlights. Well, they're not highlights. The highlights will be calculated like our roughness and our ambient occlusion is calculated. But speculars, it defaults at 0.5 if you don't set a value in there. So I'm happy with that. So if I go to a 0 with our roughness now, you get that reflection, which is 5. So I'm going to go 0.85. 0.5 is a minimum and 1 is a maximum. Get that little bit of reflection. All the other material layers are set as a roughness of 1, so you won't see any reflection unless you're directly looking at the sunlight, which is directly above us, so you're not going to see much. Okay, so after quite some time now of debugging and testing, I'm quite happy with how that slope layer has turned out. This green band you can see here is our secondary slope layer. I will sort that out off camera. But as for our slope layer, that's pretty much it. So AO, 0, 0 and 0. Not getting much from here, but I generally go for a 0.65, 0.5 and a 1 as a maximum. There's no point if you have a max and min on your AO and roughness, no point in putting the actual value below 0.5. It's already set up. But yeah, what I would need to do now is duplicate this master layer and have a slope layer A and B. Would have to change all the names, the groups inside the names, and all that good stuff. But yeah, I would say overall, I honestly don't know how long this video is at the time of recording, but what I will do is, like the previous videos, because they're just too long, I will try and speed up the monotonous parts of the video that you guys are already accustomed to if you've been following this channel. But for that particular cliffside slope layer, fairly happy with that look, fairly happy with the material layers themselves. You can see that dark patch there is the macro variation. It's not some weird stuff. So yeah, I feel actually now our material layer, our landscape material is almost complete. It literally is. I've just cracked my finger. It's almost complete. We've got our foliage here, which is in here. I could set this up again, showcase setting it all up, but I may move on to PCG and try and filter out with PCG on our environment. But if we fly over here to our cliff walls, you can see where the transition, this is our secondary slope layer and this is our cliff wall. Now you can see there's a bit of repetition, and you can see now that distant UVs, maybe the close-up UVs are too small, but that's something I'll look at. But yeah, so our slope layer is now built, rebuilt. Our material layers for our ground are now rebuilt. All I need to do is spend some time off camera recreating and renaming our slope layers based off this master slope layer, and then retexturing if I see fit, and then just setting all the slope blend up and all that good stuff. So the next time you see this world, the actual landscape material will almost be complete. It's down to foliage then, setting up the foliage assets for our ground, where we have the rocky, dirty, twiggy sections spawning on this area. There's other additions I may make to this landscape material. It is quite expensive, this material for a game shader, but we have tried to reduce the instructions some doing these rebuilds, but viewing it like the view of it is nice. I can see the blends are working nice, the height blends, you can see the transitions between the layers. We have enabled distant detail normals based off distant, which you can see working there. It's a nice slight blend in there, but when you get close, the detail normals come up. For certain areas like these areas, I may introduce POM, which is parallax occlusion mapping. So when you come down to here and you're looking at it like this, it kind of looks raised. Various games utilise POM, like Gears of War and Arma Reforger and things like that. Them kind of games do utilise POM instead of displacement. Displacement does now work in Unreal Engine, but not at a scale like the map we're using in this series. That's why I've not bothered implementing it. I may do a video just showcasing building up displacement in your level and utilising it with your height maps and all that good stuff. But as it stands, I'm not sure what video I'm going to release next. I will have a look into it, what we can add onto here. I may start going down the route with PCG. I do need to experiment a little bit more. I've only got my hands on PCG a couple of times and used the basics, so I do need to learn a bit more about procedural content generation. So yeah, we'll soon see what happens, but our landscape shader in our BWV2 series is almost a video or two away from being fully complete, and I can actually put it on the market for anyone to buy if they don't want to follow along in this lengthy series. So guys, I will see you in the next video. Thank you, bye.